Hello everyone. My name is Ryan Ashcroft, and today I'm going to share with you something that happened to me 3 years ago. Something that still keeps me awake at night. Something that changed the way I look at forests forever. Something that changed the way I look at reality itself. Before we begin, I want to tell you about the most terrifying silence I've ever experienced. The kind of silence that feels like it's watching you, waiting for you, hunting you. The kind that makes your heart pound so loud you think it might give away your position. The kind that makes you question everything you thought you knew about the world. And trust me, by the end of this story, you'll understand why I never went back, why I can never go back, and why part of me knows I'll have to go back eventually. Now, before I get into what happened in those woods, before I tell you about the things I saw, the things I experienced, the things that shouldn't exist, I can see that 80% of you watching this video right now haven't subscribed yet, and that's okay. I understand, but if you enjoy these true horror stories, if you want to hear more terrifying experiences, if you want to know what really lurks in the forgotten places of this world, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and don't forget to turn on the bell icon so you never miss an upload, because trust me, after you hear what I have to say, you'll want to hear more, or maybe you'll wish you never heard any of it at all. Also, I'd love to know where you're watching this from. Drop a comment below telling me your location and what time it is for you right now. Tell me if you're watching this alone. Tell me if it's dark where you are. Tell me if you've ever experienced something you couldn't explain. And if you have your own horror story, your own experience with something unexplainable, something that defies logic, something that keeps you up at night, please email us or leave it in the comment section. I read every single one, every single terrifying word, and who knows, your story might be featured in an upcoming video. Your warning might save someone else. Now, let's get into what happened to me in that forgotten forest, that ancient place, that doorway to something we were never meant to find. It was late October, 3 years ago. I was living in a small town in rural Scotland, just outside the Highlands, a place so remote that GPS sometimes couldn't find it, where the nearest neighbor was 3 miles away, where the mist rolled in from the mountains every evening like a living thing. I had moved there for work, a remote job that let me live anywhere with decent internet, and I'd always loved the countryside, the peace, the isolation, the idea of being far from civilization, from the noise, from the crowds, or at least, I thought I did. I thought isolation was beautiful, romantic even. I was so wrong, so terribly, horrifically wrong. I'd been there for about 6 months when I first heard about the old-growth forest about 15 miles from my cottage, 15 miles down winding roads that seemed to get narrower the further you went, roads that twisted back on themselves, roads that the locals avoided after sunset. The locals called it Blackthorn Woods, and whenever I mentioned wanting to hike there, wanting to explore it, wanting to photograph it, people would get this strange look on their faces, this mixture of fear and pity. Like I just told them I was planning to walk off a cliff. They'd change the subject, or warn me about getting lost, or say the trails weren't maintained, or mumble something about dangerous terrain. But no one would tell me why they really didn't want me going there. No one would look me in the eye and tell me the truth. And that silence, that refusal to speak, should have been my first warning. Now, I'm not the superstitious type. I'm 32 years old. I've hiked all over Europe, parts of Canada, even some remote areas in New Zealand. I've camped alone dozens of times. I've dealt with wild animals, bad weather, difficult terrain. I've been lost before. I've been scared before. I thought I'd seen it all. I thought I understood what fear was. I was wrong, so completely, utterly wrong. Because what I experienced in Blackthorn Woods, it wasn't fear. It was something beyond fear, something primal, something that reached into the oldest parts of my brain and whispered that I was prey, that I was being hunted, that I was already caught. The week before it happened, I'd been planning this hike obsessively. I found some old maps online, dusty scans of surveys from the 1800s, some forum posts from years ago about the forest, posts that described its beauty, its tranquility, its otherworldly atmosphere. The weird thing was, all the posts were from before 2015. Nothing recent. No trail reviews, no photos on social media, no hiking blogs, nothing. It was like after 2015. Everyone just Stopped talking about it. Stopped going there. Stopped acknowledging it existed. But I chalked it up to the place being unpopular, forgotten, off the beaten path, which honestly made me want to go even more. I love discovering hidden gems, places untouched by tourism, places where you could feel truly alone. God, if only I'd known what alone really meant, what it really felt like, what was waiting for me in that isolation. I remember the night before I left. I was at the local pub, the Stag's Head, having dinner. The place was quiet that night, unusually quiet, just a handful of regulars nursing their drinks, speaking in low voices. An old man named Cole Mercer sat down next to me. He was probably in his 70s, withered face like old leather, intense eyes that seemed to look right through me, through my skin, through my bones, into something deeper. He didn't say hello, didn't introduce himself, didn't order a drink right away. Just looked at me, studied me, like he was measuring me, weighing me, deciding something. And then he said, "You're the one asking about BLACKDHORN." It wasn't a question. It was a statement, said with such certainty that it made my skin prickle. I nodded, a bit surprised, but the town was small. Word traveled fast. Gossip was the main entertainment. He ordered a whiskey neat, drank half of it in one gulp, his hand shaking slightly, then turned to me fully and said, "Don't go there after dark, and if you hear the silence, real silence, not a bird, not an insect, not the wind, not your own breath, nothing, you run, and you don't look back. You run like the devil himself is at your heels, because what's there is worse than the devil, much worse." I laughed nervously, tried to lighten the mood, asked him what he meant, asked if there were dangerous animals, asked if people got lost easily. But he just stared at me, his eyes getting darker, more hollow. And he said, "It's not about getting lost. It's about being found, being claimed, being remembered. Blackthorn remembers everyone who enters, and what it remembers, it keeps, it changes, it uses." Then he finished his drink, dropped some money on the bar, more than the whiskey cost, much more, like he was paying for something else, atoning for something. And he stood to leave, but before he did, he grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong, his fingers ice cold even through my jacket. And he whispered, "If you see yourself, if you meet yourself in there, don't speak to it, don't acknowledge it, and whatever you do, don't let it touch you, because once it touches you, you're not alone anymore. You're never alone again." Then he left, walked out into the October night, and I sat there, my arm tingling where he grabbed me, feeling cold despite the fire in the pub. I didn't think much of it at the time, or rather, I tried not to think about it. I told myself he was just a superstitious old-timer trying to spook the outsider, trying to scare the city boy who thought he could handle the wilderness. How wrong I was, how I wish I'd listened, how I wish I'd paid for my meal and driven straight home and never looked back. But I didn't. I stayed. I ordered another drink, and I talked to the bartender, a woman named Margaret, probably in her 50s, kind face, sad eyes. I asked her about Cole Mercer, asked her what his deal was, why he was so intense about the forest. She stopped wiping down the bar, her hands going still, and she said, "Cole lost his brother in BLACKHORN back in 1978. He was only 12 years old, his brother was 15. They went hiking together. Cole came back 3 days later alone, said his brother just disappeared, said one moment he was there, the next moment he was gone, no sound, no struggle, just gone." I felt a chill run down my spine. Asked if they ever found the brother. Margaret shook her head. They searched for weeks, brought in dogs, search and rescue teams from all over Scotland. Nothing, not a trace, not a piece of clothing, not a footprint. It was like he'd never existed, like the forest had swallowed him whole. But the strange thing, the thing that really disturbed everyone, was that Cole couldn't remember what his brother looked like, couldn't remember his name, couldn't remember any memories with him. It was only when they showed him photographs that he remembered, and even then, he said the person in the photos felt like a stranger, like someone he'd never met. She paused, looked around the empty pub, and continued, "That's not the only disappearance. There have been others, dozens over the years. People go in, some come out, some don't, and the ones who do come out, they're different, changed. They know things they shouldn't, they say things that don't make sense, and within months, they all go back, every single one. They walk back into BLHORRIFYING, and they're never seen again. I wanted to ask more, wanted to hear more stories, but Margaret just shook her head, said she'd said too much already, and refused to talk about it anymore. I finished my drink in silence, paid my bill, and walked back to my cottage through the dark Scottish night. The wind whispering through the trees, carrying sounds that might have been voices, might have been warnings, might have been invitations. That night, I barely slept. I kept having strange dreams, dreams where I was walking through a forest, an endless forest, where the trees had faces, where the shadows moved independently, where I could hear my own voice calling to me from deeper in the woods, calling me home, calling me to come find myself. When I woke up, it was still dark, and I felt exhausted, more exhausted than when I'd gone to bed, but I was excited, eager. The dreams had only made me more curious, more determined. I wanted to see this mysterious forest for myself. Wanted to prove that it was just a forest, just trees and rocks and streams, nothing supernatural, nothing impossible. God, I was such a fool. The next morning, October 27th, I woke up at 5 a.m., couldn't sleep anymore. Too much anticipation, too much excitement, too much stupidity. The sunrise in that part of Scotland is beautiful in autumn, all oranges and reds bleeding across the sky like wounds, like the sky itself was warning me, bleeding for what was to come. I packed my gear carefully, methodically, a good backpack with water, 3 liters food for the day, sandwiches, energy bars, fruit, a first aid kit, comprehensive, with bandages and antiseptic and painkillers, a flashlight, a good one, military grade, extra batteries, my phone fully charged with an external battery pack, a compass, proper orienteering compass, a paper map, detailed topographical, showing every hill and valley, all the essentials, everything a responsible hiker should have, everything that would prove completely useless in what was to come. I also brought my camera, a good DSLR. I was planning to take photos, to document this forgotten place, to share its beauty with the world, to prove the locals wrong, to show that Blackthorn Woods was just a forest, nothing more, nothing less. I even thought about making a video, showing everyone how silly the superstitions were, how unfounded the fears. I wish I could go back, shake myself, scream at myself, force myself to stay home. But I can't, and even if I could, I'm not sure it would matter. I think Blackthorn was already calling me, already pulling me toward it, already preparing me for what I would become. I drove my old Land Rover down increasingly narrow roads, roads that wound through the countryside, past abandoned farms, past crumbling stone walls, past sheep that watched me pass with empty eyes. The GPS stopped working about halfway there, just showed a blank screen, no roads, no landmarks, nothing. But I had my paper map. I'd marked the route the night before. I knew where I was going, or at least, I thought I did. The roads got narrower, rougher, less maintained. Potholes that could swallow a tire. Branches scraping against the sides of my vehicle. At one point, I passed another car, heading in the opposite direction, away from BLHORRIFYING. The driver, a middle-aged man, pale, wide-eyed, looked at me as we passed, and I saw his lips move. I think he was saying, turn back, or maybe don't go. But I kept driving. I was committed now, too invested to turn around, too stubborn to admit that maybe everyone had been right. Finally, after what felt like hours, but was probably only 45 minutes, I reached what looked like an abandoned car park. Just a patch of gravel, really, overgrown with weeds that had broken through the surface, cracked and weathered. There was one other vehicle there, a rusted-out truck, old Ford, probably from the 1980s, covered in moss and lichen. The tires flat, the windows broken. It looked like it had been there for decades, like it had become part of the landscape, part of the forest. The sight of it should have been my first warning, should have made me turn around, should have sent me running back to civilization. But I was excited, eager, stupid, so incredibly stupid. I parked next to the rusted truck, got out, stretched. The morning air was cold, crisp. I could see my breath. The forest loomed ahead, dark even in the morning light, the trees so dense that I couldn't see more than a few feet in. It was quiet, unnaturally quiet. I remember noticing that even then, no birds, no insects, no animals, just silence. But not the silence I would later experience, not that oppressive, suffocating, watching silence, Just normal forest quiet, or so I thought. I checked my phone, full signal, 5 bars, perfect. I pulled out my camera, took a photo of my Land Rover next to the rusted truck, took a photo of the forest entrance, documenting everything, being professional, being prepared. Then I sent a text to my friend Marcus back in London, told him where I was going, told him I'd check in when I got back, told him not to worry if he didn't hear from me until evening. That text, that simple text, would later become part of a missing person report, would be analyzed by police, would be the last proof that I was still normal, still me, still human. The trailhead was barely visible, just a gap in the trees, a space where the undergrowth was slightly less dense. There was a faded wooden sign, old, weathered, the wood splintered and gray. It read Blackthorn Woods. No maintained trails beyond this point. Enter at your own risk. I took a photo of the sign, posted it to social media with a caption about adventure and exploration. Got a few likes, a few comments telling me to be careful. I responded with laughing emojis, with confident messages, with promises to share amazing photos later. Those would be my last social media posts for a very long time, and when I finally posted again months later, people said I wrote differently, spoke differently, wasn't the same person anymore, and maybe they're right. I adjusted my backpack, checked my compass. It pointed north, steady, reliable normal. I took a deep breath, savored that last moment of normalcy, that last moment of innocence, and stepped into the forest, into Blackthorn Woods, into a place that exists outside the normal rules of reality, into a place that remembers, that claims, that changes. I crossed a threshold that morning, stepped through a doorway I didn't know existed, and nothing would ever be the same again. The first hour was beautiful. I won't lie about that. I can't lie about that, because it makes what came later so much worse. The forest was dense, thick with old-growth trees that must have been hundreds of years old, maybe thousands. Oak, ash, some massive pines that towered overhead like ancient pillars, like the columns of some vast cathedral. The canopy was so thick that even though it was morning, even though the sun was up, the light came through in scattered beams, creating this almost magical atmosphere, almost holy, almost sacred, like I'd stepped into a place untouched by time, unchanged by humanity, preserved in amber. I took photos, dozens of them. The light was perfect. The composition was beautiful. I recorded some video, panned across the massive trunks, tilted up to show the canopy, captured the way the light filtered through. I was in heaven. This was exactly what I'd wanted, exactly what I'd been hoping for. Proof that Blackthorn Woods was just a beautiful, forgotten place. Nothing sinister, nothing supernatural, just nature in its purest form. The trail, such as it was, wound deeper into the woods. It wasn't a proper trail. More like a deer path, or maybe a path the humans had once used, but that nature was slowly reclaiming. I had to watch my footing, step over roots and rocks, push aside low-hanging branches, but it was manageable, even pleasant. I felt alive, connected to nature, part of something larger than myself. God, if only I'd known how right that feeling was, how I was becoming part of something, how I was being absorbed, being claimed, being prepared. I passed a few landmarks I'd noted on my map. An old stone wall, crumbling, probably from some long-abandoned farm from centuries ago. The stones were covered in moss, green and thick, almost glowing in the filtered light. I touched one of the stones. It was cold, far colder than it should have been, cold enough that my fingers tingled, but I didn't think much of it. Stone stays cold in the shade. That's normal. That's natural. Except now I remember that my fingerprints stayed on that stone visible, like I'd pressed them into soft clay, like the stone had memorized my touch. Further in, I came to a stream, beautiful, crystal clear water babbling over moss-covered rocks. The sound was soothing, peaceful, normal. I stopped there, cupped my hands, drank some of the water. It was delicious, cold, pure, tasting of minerals and earth. I filled my water bottles, thinking I was being smart, being resourceful, not realizing that I was drinking from BLSHORN, that I was taking it inside me, that it was taking me inside it, that we were beginning to merge. Around 2 hours and deep enough that the forest felt endless. I couldn't hear any sounds from the outside world, no cars, no planes, no signs of civilization. I stopped for water, sat down on a fallen log, checked my position on my phone. I was making good time, following the route I'd planned pretty closely. The goal was to reach an area marked on the old maps as Raven's Clearing, supposedly a beautiful meadow in the heart of the forest, a place where ravens gathered in massive flocks, a place of stunning beauty. I'd have lunch there, take photos, maybe even take a nap in the sun, then loop back. Should have been back at my car by late afternoon. Simple, safe, routine, normal. Except nothing about Blackthorn is normal. Nothing about that place follows the rules. Nothing about that forest plays by nature's laws. That's when I noticed it, or rather, I noticed the absence of it. Sound, noise, life. I'd been hearing birds all morning, not many, but some, the occasional rustle of small animals in the underbrush, squirrels maybe, or rabbits, the wind in the leaves, that constant whisper that forests make, the sound of a living ecosystem. But suddenly, between one breath and the next, between one heartbeat and the next, nothing. Complete silence. Not gradual, not fading, just gone. Like someone had pressed a mute button on reality. Like the world had been put on pause. I stood there, confused, disoriented. My ears felt strange, like they were stuffed with cotton. That pressure you get on an airplane when you're ascending too fast, or when you dive underwater. That feeling of being cut off, isolated, separated from a world. I yawned, tried to pop them, opened my jaw wide, wiggled my jaw, tried to clear whatever blockage there was. Nothing changed. The silence wasn't just quiet, it was oppressive, heavy, tangible, like the air itself had become dense, thick, suffocating. Not even the stream I'd been following seemed to be making noise anymore. I could see the water moving, could see it flowing over rocks, could see small waterfalls and rapids, but no sound, not a whisper, not a bubble, just silent movement, like watching a video with the sound turned off, like watching the world through glass, separated, isolated, alone. Then I remembered what Cole Mercer had said. If you hear the silence, real silence, you run. And I remembered his grip on my arm, the cold of his fingers, the intensity in his eyes, the absolute certainty in his voice, and suddenly, in that moment, I believed him. I believed every word, every warning, every fear, because this silence, this absolute, complete, suffocating silence, it wasn't natural, it wasn't right. It was wrong on a fundamental level. Wrong in a way that my body understood even if my mind was still trying to rationalize it. I felt my heart rate pick up faster, harder, pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. A chill ran down my spine despite my jacket, despite the exertion of hiking, despite the fact that I shouldn't have been cold. I pulled out my phone to check the time, maybe to call for help, maybe to hear another human voice, and that's when I got my second shock. The second hint that something was fundamentally wrong with this place. No signal. Not low signal. Not one bar. Not searching for service. The icon showed completely empty, crossed out. Like the concept of cellular service didn't exist here. Like I'd somehow stepped into a dead zone that shouldn't exist. But that was impossible. I'd had full signal just 20 minutes ago. 5 bars. Perfect reception. And I hadn't gone that deep into the forest. I was maybe 2 miles from the trailhead, maybe 3. There was no reason for complete signal loss. No reason at all. I tried to stay calm, told myself it was just a dead zone, that it would come back, that there was a logical explanation. Cell towers can't cover everywhere. There are gaps, especially in rural areas, especially in dense forests. But even as I tried to rationalize it, tried to convince myself, I knew, something deep in my gut knew, that this wasn't normal, that this wasn't just a coverage gap, that something else was happening, something impossible. I looked at my compass and froze, completely froze, every muscle locking up, every thought stopping, because what I saw shouldn't have been possible, couldn't have been possible, defied every law of physics I knew. The needle was spinning slowly, deliberately, methodically, clockwise, then counterclockwise, then clockwise again, never settling, never pointing north, never pointing anywhere, just rotating like it was searching for something it couldn't find, like North didn't exist anymore, like the magnetic field of the earth had just stopped, like the rules that govern reality had been suspended. Now I was scared, really scared, genuinely terrified in a way I'd never been before. I'm not ashamed to admit it. This wasn't normal. This wasn't a dead battery, wasn't magnetic interference from rocks, wasn't a malfunction. This was something fundamentally wrong with where I was, with the space I occupied, with reality itself. I pulled out my backup compass, the one I'd brought just in case. It did the same thing, spinning, searching, never finding. Both compasses, both working fine that morning when I tested them, both reliable pieces of equipment, both now useless, both telling me that something was wrong, that I needed to leave, that I needed to run. I decided right then, in that moment, standing in that oppressive silence with my useless phone and my spinning compasses, that I needed to head back. Forget the clearing, forget the photos, forget the adventure. I just wanted to get out, to return to the normal world, to the world where phones work and compasses point north and streams make sound. But here's the thing that still makes my blood run cold when I think about it. When I turn around, when I look back the way I'd come, the trail I'd been following, the clear path I'd walked for 2 hours, the path that had been there just minutes ago, it was gone. Not overgrown, not hidden by fallen branches, not obscured by undergrowth, just gone, vanished, erased from reality. There were trees where the path should have been, old trees, ancient trees, massive oaks with trunks wider than my car, trees that would have taken centuries to grow, trees that couldn't have grown there in the 10 minutes since I'd passed through, trees that shouldn't exist, trees that didn't exist, but there they were, solid, real, impossible. The forest behind me looked completely different, denser, darker, old, wrong. The trees I'd passed, the landmarks I'd noted, the stone wall, the stream, all gone, replaced by an ancient forest that looked like it hadn't seen human presence in millennia, that looked like it had been there since the dawn of time. Untouched, unchanged, eternal. I felt panic rising in my chest, real panic. The kind that makes your vision narrow and your breath come fast and shallow. That tight feeling in your chest, that sensation of your heart trying to climb up your throat. That animal instinct that screams danger, wrong, run. I forced myself to think, to be rational, to use my training, to remember what I'd learned about wilderness survival, about staying calm, about not making rash decisions, about thinking clearly in emergencies. I pulled out my paper map, hands shaking, tried to orient myself, tried to figure out where I was, but in that silence, in that impossible quiet, surrounded by a forest that had changed, that had become something else, I couldn't think straight, couldn't focus. The map showed the stream. I could follow it back. Streams always lead somewhere, always flow downhill, toward rivers, toward lakes, toward civilization. Basic geography, basic survival. Follow the water and you'll find your way out. I turned to the stream, relief flooding through me. At least the water was still there. At least I had something to follow. And then I looked at it, really looked at it, and nearly screamed. Nearly fell to my knees. Nearly lost my mind right there, because what I was seeing couldn't be real, couldn't exist, couldn't happen. The water was flowing uphill, flowing up, against gravity, against nature, against every law of physics, against reality itself. I know how that sounds. I know what you're thinking. I know it's impossible. But I'm telling you, the water was moving upward. The stream that had been flowing downhill when I had crossed it earlier, leading me deeper into the forest, was now flowing up, like someone had reversed a video, like someone had inverted gravity, like the world had been turned upside down, but I was still standing upright. I backed away from it, my legs shaking so badly I almost fell, my breath coming in gasps, my mind trying to reject what my eyes were seeing, trying to find any explanation, any rational reason, but there was none. This wasn't possible. None of this was possible. I'm a rational person. I believe in science and logic and cause and effect, but what I was seeing defied everything I knew, everything I believed, everything that should be true. I stumbled backward, away from the impossible stream, away from the trees that shouldn't exist, away from the silence that pressed in like a physical weight. And that's when I saw movement, just at the edge of my vision, just visible in the shadows between the ancient trees. Between the trees, maybe 30 feet away, maybe closer. Distance felt wrong there, felt elastic, felt meaningless. Something was standing there, watching me, studying me, waiting. At first, I thought it was a person, another hiker maybe. Someone who could help, someone who could explain, someone who could prove I wasn't going insane. Tall, man-shaped, roughly human proportions, standing still, perfectly still, inhumanly still. But as my eyes adjusted to the shadows, as my brain processed what I was seeing, I realized it was wrong, fundamentally wrong, Wrong in every way. Too thin, far too thin, like someone had taken a human and stretched them, elongated them, pulled them like taffy. The proportions were off, the arms too long, reaching almost to the knees, maybe past the knees, the legs too long, the torso too narrow, the head too small, or maybe too large. It was hard to tell in the shadows, hard to process what I was seeing. It wasn't moving, just standing there, and I couldn't see its face. The shadows seemed to cling to it, seemed to wrap around it like a cloak, like the darkness was part of it, or it was part of the darkness. It looked like a hole in reality shaped like a person, like someone had cut a human-shaped piece out of the world and left only emptiness, only void, only absence. I didn't run, couldn't move. I was frozen, paralyzed. Every instinct screaming at me to move, to flee, to do anything but stand there, but my body wouldn't respond, wouldn't obey. My legs felt like lead, my muscles locked, my breath caught in my throat. We stayed like that for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds, though time felt wrong there, felt stretched, felt broken. Then slowly, deliberately, with a movement that was perfectly smooth and completely wrong, it tilted its head, a movement no human neck could make, too far, at least 90 degrees, maybe more, perfectly smooth, no joint movement, no muscle strain, just a fluid, impossible rotation, like its head was on a swivel, like its neck was made of something other than bone and flesh. And then it took a step toward me. Not a human step, not a normal step, something else. Its leg moved, but not like a leg should move, not with knees bending and feet lifting, but more like it flowed forward, like the forest moved it, like space itself repositioned it. One moment it was 30 feet away, the next it was 25, but I hadn't seen it move, hadn't seen the transition, just the before and after. That broke the spell, shattered the paralysis, released whatever invisible force was holding me in place. I ran. I crashed through the underbrush, through thorns and branches, through vegetation that tore at my clothes, at my face, at my hands. I didn't care, didn't feel it, didn't notice. I just ran. No direction, no plan, no thought beyond escape. Just pure animal panic. The kind of fear that shuts down the thinking brain, that reduces you to instinct, to flight, to survival at any cost. Behind me, I could hear, or rather feel, something following. Not footsteps, the silence wouldn't allow that. The silence swallowed all sound, but a presence, a displacement of air, a certainty that I wasn't alone, that something was behind me, matching my pace, keeping the same distance, playing with me, hunting me, herding me toward something. I don't know how long I ran. Time felt wrong there, elastic broken. I'd look at my watch and it would say 1 p.m. Then I'd look again and it would say 11 a.m. Then 3 p.m. Then 9 a.m. The numbers meaningless, the passage of time unmoored from reality. 5 minutes felt like 5 hours. An hour felt like 5 seconds. Nothing made sense. Nothing was reliable. Nothing was real. The forest seemed to shift around me as I ran. Trees I'd pass would appear ahead of me again. I'd recognize a specific trunk, a specific pattern of branches, and realize I'd seen it before, that I was looping, circling, going nowhere. The path ahead would change, split, merge, disappear, reappear, like the forest was a maze, but a maze that rearranged itself, that changed its layout with every step, that had no solution, no exit, no escape. I circled the same massive oak 3 times without meaning to, or maybe it was 3 different oaks that looked exactly the same. Or maybe it was the same oak following me, moving through the forest, staying ahead of me. I couldn't tell anymore, couldn't trust my eyes, couldn't trust my memory, couldn't trust anything. Finally, exhausted, my lungs burning, my legs screaming, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst, I collapsed against a tree, gasping for air, tasting blood, feeling like I was dying. Maybe I was dying. Maybe I died already, and this was hell. Maybe nothing was real. Maybe I'd never left my cottage. Maybe this was all a dream, a nightmare, psychotic break. I waited for whatever was following me to appear, to finish whatever this was, to end the chase, to claim me. But nothing came. The silence was still there, absolute, suffocating, pressing in from all sides, but I was alone at least. I couldn't see anything, couldn't sense anything. Was it gone? Was it waiting? Was it watching from somewhere I couldn't see? My watch now read 7 p.m. Impossible. The light was fading, the forest getting darker, dimmer. The shadows were lengthening, deepening, becoming solid, becoming real. I'd been in the forest for nearly 12 hours according to my watch, but it felt both longer and shorter than that somehow. Felt like days, felt like minutes, felt like forever. I knew I couldn't stay there, couldn't remain in one place. Nightfall in that place, in that impossible forest. I couldn't stay there, couldn't remain in one place. Nightfall in that place, in that impossible forest. I couldn't even imagine what would happen when true darkness fell, when the last light disappeared, when the shadows became complete. I forced myself to my feet, every muscle protesting, every joint aching. My backpack felt heavier, much heavier than it should, like something had been added, like the forest itself had climbed inside. I considered leaving it, abandoning it, but some part of me, some practical part that was still trying to function, told me I might need what was inside, might need the water, the food, the flashlight, especially the flashlight. I started walking again, no direction, no plan, just moving, because stopping felt like death, felt like surrender, felt like acceptance. I kept my eyes forward, tried not to look at the trees, tried not to notice how they seemed to lean toward me, how their branches reached down like grasping fingers, how their trunks seemed to have faces in the bark, eyes watching, mouths open in silent screams, or maybe silent laughter. The light continued to fade, that long autumn twilight that seems to last forever, except here it felt compressed, accelerated, like someone was dimming the lights on a stage, preparing for the final act, preparing for something worse than what I'd already experienced. I pulled out my flashlight, tested it. The beam cut through the gloom, bright, strong, reliable, one thing that still worked, one thing that still made sense. I held onto it like a lifeline, like a connection to the real world, like proof that physics still applied to something. That's when I heard it, or rather, I heard the absence of it ending. The silence, that absolute, oppressive silence, suddenly broke, and I almost wished it hadn't. Almost wished for the quiet back, because what replaced it was worse, so much worse. Voices distant, echoing, calling my name. Ryan. Ryan Ashcroft. Ryan. Multiple voices, dozens maybe, overlapping, harmonizing them high, some low, some that sounded like me, some that sounded like people I knew, some that sounded like nothing human, all calling, all beckoning, all inviting me deeper, inviting me home, inviting me come find them, come join them, come become one with BLACHORN. I covered my ears, pressed my palms hard against my head, but it didn't help. The voices weren't coming from outside, they were inside, in my head, in my bones, resonating through my skull. I could feel them more than hear them, vibrating through my teeth, humming in my jaw, pulsing in my temples. And underneath the voices, beneath them, supporting them like a foundation, I could hear music, if you could call it that, a melody that hurt to hear, that made my eyes water, that made my nose bleed. I felt warmth on my upper lip, touched it, my fingers came away red, bright red in the beam of my flashlight, blood, fresh blood, just from hearing, just from listening, just from existing in this place. I stumbled forward, trying to escape the sound, but followed, grew louder, more insistent, more demanding. The voices began to say other things, terrible things, true things. Things about me, about my past, about mistakes I'd made, about people I'd hurt, about secrets I'd kept. How did they know? How could they know? Had BLACHORN been watching me my whole life? Had it been waiting, preparing, learning me, learning how to break me, how to claim me, how to make me part of itself? Then I saw lights ahead, small lights, flickering, like candles or fireflies, dozens of them, hundreds scattered through the trees, floating, drifting, dancing, beautiful, hypnotic, mesmerizing. I felt drawn to them, pulled toward them. They seemed warm, seemed safe, seemed like salvation, like rescue, like home. I took a step toward them, then another, my flashlight beam cutting through the darkness, illuminating the floating lights, and I saw what they really were, and I screamed. I actually screamed, the sound tearing from my throat, breaking the silence, shattering the spell. Eyes, they were eyes, human eyes, disconnected from bodies, floating in the darkness, staring at me, blinking, focusing, tracking my movement. Some were fresh, clear, bright. still alive somehow, still aware, still suffering. Others were old, cloudy, milky white with decay, but still moving, still watching, still conscious. And reflected in those eyes, in those hundreds of floating eyes, I could see myself, but wrong, distorted, changed. In some I looked older, ancient, withered. In others I looked younger, like a child. In some I had too many limbs, in others too few. In some my face was melting. In others it was frozen in expressions of horror, of ecstasy, of surrender. I ran again, away from my eyes, away from the lights, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly, creating shadows that moved wrong, that reached for me, that grabbed at my ankles. I could feel them, cold, tangible, real, fingers made of darkness, hands made of absence, try to pull me down, trying to drag me into the earth, into the roots, into blackthorn itself. My foot caught on something, a root maybe, or a hand. I couldn't tell, didn't want to know, and I fell, hard, the flashlight flying from my grip, tumbling through the darkness, its beam spinning, creating a strobe effect, freeze frames of horror, the forest revealed in stuttering glimpses, each image worse than the last. I scrambled toward where the flashlight had fallen, my hands digging into earth that felt wrong. Too soft, too warm, too alive, like flesh, like skin, like I was crawling across something vast and sleeping, something that might wake. My fingers closed around the flashlight, cold metal, real, solid. Thank God, thank God, thank God. I stood, shining the light around, trying to orient myself, try to find any landmark, anything familiar, anything that made sense. The beam fell on something ahead, something large, something that didn't belong. A building, or what was left of one. Stone walls, mostly collapsed, covered in vegetation, ancient, older than anything should be in these woods, older than Scotland itself maybe, older than humanity perhaps. I approached slowly, cautiously, every instinct screaming at me to run, to flee, to get away. But where would I go? The forest was infinite, endless, impossible. At least the building was something, a destination, a goal, something made by human hands, even if those hands had been dead for centuries, even if those hands had been trying to build something that shouldn't exist. The entrance was a dark opening, a wound in the stone, inviting, threatening, promising. I shone my light inside, the beam swallowed by darkness that seemed thicker than it should be, darker than an absence of light should allow, like the darkness inside was different, was substantial, was alive. But I had no choice. The forest behind me was impossible. The forest around me was changing. The forest itself was the enemy. At least inside there might be shelter, might be answers, might be escape, or it might be something worse, something final, something that would end this nightmare one way or another. I stepped inside, crossing another threshold, entering another space where reality bent, where rules changed, where Blackthorn truly lived. The temperature dropped immediately, drastically. My breath came out in thick white clouds, frost forming on the stone walls, on the vegetation, on my clothes. In seconds I was shivering, my teeth chattering, my fingers going numb. This was a natural cold, wasn't winter cold. This was something else, the cold of deep space, of absolute zero, of the void between stars. The interior was larger than it should be, the walls extending further than the outside dimensions allowed. Impossible architecture, impossible space. My flashlight beam revealed carvings on the walls, symbols, languages I didn't recognize, some that hurt to look at, that made my eyes cross, that made my head pound. Pictures, too, etched into the stone, pictures of people, of rituals, of sacrifices, of transformations, of things that were once human becoming something else, becoming part of the forest, becoming part of BLSHORN, becoming eternal. And in the center of the space, in the exact middle, perfectly placed, impossibly positioned, there was a well, a circular opening in the floor, stone-lined, ancient. A well that went down, 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 into darkness, so complete that my flashlight couldn't penetrate it, couldn't illuminate it, couldn't touch it. The darkness in that well wasn't absence, it was presence, it was something, it was everything. I approached the well, drawn to it, compelled, my feet moving without my permission, without my consent. I looked down into it, shining my light, seeing nothing, just darkness, just void, just wait. Something was moving down there, something was rising, coming up, coming for me. I stepped back, tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move, wouldn't obey. I was frozen again, paralyzed again, watching as something climbed up from the depths, something that scraped against the stone walls, that moved with purpose, with intention, with hunger. It emerged slowly, deliberately, savoring the moment. A hand first, if you could call it that. Too many fingers, too many joints, pale, translucent. I could see bones inside, could see veins pulsing, could see things moving beneath the skin that weren't blood. Then an arm, elongated, stretched wrong. Then a head, and I recognized the face, recognized it immediately, felt my sanity crack, felt my mind break, felt reality shatter into pieces that could never be put back together. It was me. The thing climbing out of the well was me, my face, my features, my body. But wrong, twisted, corrupted. My eyes were black, completely black. No whites, no iris, just darkness, endless darkness, reflecting nothing, absorbing everything. My mouth was too wide, stretching from ear to ear, filled with too many teeth, all sharp, all pointing inward, all designed to hold, to trap, to consume. My skin was pale, corpse pale, dead pale, but alive somehow, pulsing, breathing, hungry. It pulled itself out of the well, stood, was tall, taller than me, taller than any human, 7 feet, maybe 8. Its movements were fluid, wrong, like it was underwater, like gravity affected it differently, like it existed in multiple places at once. I could see it clearly, but also see through it, see the wall behind it, see the forest beyond, see myself reflected in its surface, like it was made of dark water, made of liquid shadow, made of condensed night. "Hello, Ryan," it said, with my voice, my exact voice, but layered, multiplied, echoed. Dozens of my voices speaking in perfect unison, harmonizing, resonating. "I've been waiting for you. We've been waiting for you. Blackthorn has been waiting for you, calling you, preparing you. You felt it, didn't you? Felt the pull, felt the invitation, felt the belonging." I tried to speak, couldn't, my throat closed, my tongue thick, my mouth dry. Cole Mercer's words echoed in my head. "If you see yourself, don't speak to it. Don't acknowledge it. Don't let it touch you." But it was too late for the first two. I'd already seen it, already heard it, already felt it in my mind, burrowing, connecting, merging. "You came here looking for beauty, for nature, for solitude." It continued, moving closer, gliding, flowing. "And you found it. You found what you were really looking for, found yourself, found truth, found home. Blackthorn shows everyone what they really are, strips away the pretense, the denial, the lies we tell ourselves. You wanted to escape, to be alone, to hide from other people. We gave you that. We gave you eternal solitude, eternal hiding, eternal escape." It was right in front of me now, close enough to touch. I could feel cold radiating from it, could smell decay, could taste metal on my tongue, could feel my heart slowing, my breathing becoming shallow, my body shutting down, preparing for what came next, preparing for transformation, preparing for integration. "Don't fight it, Ryan," it whispered, reaching toward me with those wrong hands, those impossible fingers. "Fighting only makes it hurt more, makes it last longer. Accept it. Accept US. Accept BLSHORN. Let the forest, Indiana. Let it fill the empty spaces. Let it show you what eternity feels like, what belonging feels like, what purpose feels like." Its hand was inches from my face. I could see into the translucent flesh, could see things moving inside, worms maybe, or roots, or veins of the forest itself. Could see my own reflection in its black eyes, could see myself already changing, already becoming, already lost. And then from somewhere deep inside, from some place that refused to break, refused to surrender, refused to accept, I moved. I pushed. I ran, somehow breaking the paralysis, somehow finding strength, somehow choosing to fight even though fighting was futile, even though escape was impossible, even though I was already claimed. I ran back toward the entrance, the thing that wore my face screaming behind me, a sound that was my voice but multiplied by thousands, by millions, the collective voice of everyone Blackthorn had ever taken, ever changed, ever consumed. I could hear my name repeated endlessly, echoing, overlapping. "Ryan, Ryan, 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 Ryan." I burst out of the building into the forest, into the night, because it was full night now, complete darkness, except for my flashlight, except for the floating eyes that still watched, still followed, still judged. I ran without direction, without hope, without purpose except to move, to flee, to delay the inevitable. And I ran for hours, for days, for years. Time meant nothing. Distance meant nothing. Direction meant nothing. The forest was infinite, was eternal, was everything. I saw impossible things, saw other people, other versions of myself, other victims, all wandering, all lost, all searching for exits that didn't exist, for salvation that would never come, for an escape from a prison that had no walls, no doors, no boundaries. I saw a woman middle-aged, still wearing hiking clothes from decades ago. The fabric rotted, falling apart. Her skin gray. Her eyes empty. She didn't see me. Didn't react. Just walked in circles around the same tree. Over and over, forever. Trapped in a loop, in a pattern, in a ritual she couldn't break, couldn't stop, couldn't escape. I saw a child young, maybe 10, standing perfectly still, staring at nothing, smiling. A smile too wide. Too happy to wrong. His mouth moved, forming words without sound, over and over the same phrase. I'm home. I'm home. I'm home. Repeated forever, repeated eternally. Repeated until the words lost meaning, until meaning lost existence, until existence became meaningless. I saw others, dozens, hundreds, all trapped, all changed, all part of Blackthorn now, all warning, all welcoming all me. I saw myself everywhere, in every face, in every expression, in every lost soul, because they were all me. We were all the same, all one, all BLSHORN, all forest, all eternal, all belonging. My legs finally gave out. I collapsed, fell to my knees, then to my side, lying on the forest floor. On earth that was warm, that pulsed, that breathed. I couldn't run anymore, couldn't fight anymore, couldn't resist anymore. I was done, finished, claimed. I closed my eyes, waited for the end, waited for transformation, waited for whatever came next, waited to become part of the forest, part of the eternal, part of Blackthorn forever. But then, something changed, something broke, something shifted. I felt warmth, real warmth, sunlight, actual sunlight on my face. I opened my eyes, squinted against brightness, against light that was natural, that was real, that was impossible. Morning light, golden, beautiful, normal. The forest around me was different, was normal, was just trees, just nature, just woods. I could hear birds, actual birds singing, could hear wind in the leaves, could hear a stream babbling nearby, could hear life, real life, normal life. I sat up slowly, carefully, my body aching, exhausted, damaged. I was at the edge of the forest, could see the car parked through the trees, could see my Land Rover waiting, could see civilization, could see escape, could see salvation. How impossibly. I'd made it out, made it back, made it to the real world. I stumbled toward my vehicle, my legs barely working, my body barely functioning. I reached it, touched it, solid, real, metal and glass and rubber, normal. I fumbled for my keys, hands shaking, opened the door, collapsed into the driver's seat, just sat there breathing, existing, being alive, being free, being escaped. I looked at my phone. It had signal, full bars. I had messages, dozens of them, from friends, from family, from work. Time was wrong, though. My watch said it was October 28th, but my phone said November 3rd. I'd been in the forest for a week, 7 days, but it had felt like minutes, like hours, like years, like forever. I had no memory of most of it. Just fragments, just pieces, just nightmares that might have been real, might have been hallucinations, might have been truth. I started the engine. It turned over, normal, reliable, mechanical. I put it in gear, drove away, watching Blackthorn woods recede in my rearview mirror, watching it shrink, watching it disappear, but never really gone, never really absent, never really forgotten, always there, always watching, always waiting. I drove home, showered. The water was cold, so cold, but I was colder. I looked in the mirror, examined myself. I looked normal, mostly thinner, maybe, paler, definitely. My eyes different somehow, darker, deeper, older. I had scratches, bruises, cuts I didn't remember getting, dirt under my fingernails that wouldn't come out, wouldn't wash away, wouldn't leave. And when I looked very closely, when the light was just right, I could see something moving under my skin, something thin, something root-like, something that pulsed, something that connected me to BLACHORN, something that meant I was still there, still part of it, still claimed. I called the police, Tried to report what happened. Tried to explain. Tried to warn them. They were kind, concerned. They sent someone to check on me. Took a statement. Suggested I see a doctor. Suggested dehydration. Exhaustion. Maybe hypothermia. Maybe hallucinations. They searched the forest briefly. Found nothing unusual. Nothing impossible, nothing wrong. Just trees, just nature, just woods. Blackthorn had hidden itself, had become normal, had masked its true face, waiting for the next person, the next victim, the next addition to its collection. I tried to move on, tried to forget, tried to return to normal life, but I can't. I dream about the forest every night, every single night without fail. In my dreams I'm still there, still walking, still searching, still running, still lost. And in my dreams I see my other self, the thing from the well, the thing that wore my face, and it's waiting, it's patient. It knows I'll come back. It knows I have to come back. It knows I'm already part of BLSHORRIFYING, already claimed, already changed. Because here's the truth. Here's why I haven't told anyone, why I can't tell anyone, what I'm only telling you now. I want to go back. Part of me, maybe most of me, maybe all of me, wants to return to Blackthorn Woods, wants to walk back into that impossible forest, wants to find that well, wants to climb down into the darkness, wants to join with my other self, wants to become complete, wants to go home. I feel it pulling me, every day, every hour, every minute. A constant tug, a gentle invitation, a loving call. Blackthorn is in me now, in my blood, in my bones, in my thoughts. I can hear it whispering, always whispering, telling me to come back, telling me to bring others, telling me to spread the word, telling me to help it grow, help it expand, help it consume. And I'm scared, terrified, because I know I will go back. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, inevitably, certainly, I'll get in my car. I'll drive those winding roads. I'll park next to that rusted truck. I'll walk into those woods, and I won't come out again. Or maybe I will. Maybe I'll come out changed, completed, transformed, and I'll start bringing others, inviting others, calling others, just like all the others before me, just like everyone Blackthorn has ever claimed. That's why I'm telling you this story, why I'm sharing this warning, why I'm recording this video. If you ever find yourself near Blackthorn Woods, near any forest that feels wrong, that feels watching, that feels alive, don't go in. Don't be curious. Don't be brave. Don't be stupid like I was. Because some places aren't meant for us. Some places don't follow our rules. Some places exist outside reality. And once they notice you, once they claim you, once they touch you, you're never free again, never whole again, never alone again. I see it in reflections now, my other self, standing behind me, watching, waiting, smiling with too many teeth. It's there when I look in mirrors, in windows, in water, in any reflective surface, always there, always watching, always reminding me that I belong to BLSHORRIFYING, that I'm part of it, that I'm home. And the worst part, the truly terrifying part, is that I'm starting to believe it, starting to accept it, starting to want it. So this is my warning, my confession, my goodbye. Because soon, very soon, I'll go back. I'll walk into those woods. I'll find that building, that well, that darkness, and I'll climb down. I'll join with what's waiting. I'll become complete. I'll become one with BLSHORRIFYING. I'll become eternal. And maybe I'll see you there. Maybe you'll ignore this warning. Maybe you'll be curious. Maybe you'll want to see for yourself. And maybe I'll be the one waiting in the shadows, the one calling your name, the one inviting you home. Blackthorn remembers everyone. Blackthorn claims everyone. Blackthorn is patient. Blackthorn is eternal. Blackthorn is waiting, always watching, always hungry. And now it knows about you too. Because you listened, because you heard, because you know. And knowing is the first step. Knowing is the invitation. Knowing is the beginning of belonging. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for bearing witness to what happened to me in those woods. I know it's hard to believe. I know it sounds impossible. I know you're probably thinking I'm crazy, suffering from some mental break, some trauma-induced psychosis. And maybe you're right. Maybe I am. But deep down, in that part of you that remembers ancient fears, that remembers when humans were prey, that remembers the truth about dark places, you know I'm telling the truth. You know places like Blackthorn exist. You know you've felt them watching. If you enjoyed this video, if you want to hear more true horror stories, if you want to know about other impossible places, other warnings, other confessions from people who've seen things they shouldn't have, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. It helps me share these warnings with more people. It helps others avoid the mistakes I made. And please hit that like button. Leave a comment telling me what you thought, telling me if you believe me, telling me if you've experienced something similar, telling me if you know about Blackthorn or places like it. What topic do you want for the next video? What kind of horror stories do you want to hear? Do you want more forest encounters, more impossible places, more transformations, more things that shouldn't exist but do? Leave your suggestions in the comment section. Tell me what terrifies you most. Tell me what keeps you awake at night. Tell me what warnings you need to hear. And if you have your own story, your own encounter, your own experience with something that defies explanation, please email me. Please share it. Please warn others. Because these stories, these warnings, they might save someone. They might prevent someone from making the mistakes we made, from walking into places they can't escape. Tell me in the comments which part of the story affected you most, which part made your skin crawl, which part made you look over your shoulder, which part made you check your locks, which part made you question reality. I read every comment, every single one, and I respond when I can, when Blackthorn lets me, when I'm still myself enough to communicate. And remember, if you ever find yourself in a forest where the silence is too complete, where your compass spins, where the water flows uphill, where you see yourself watching from the shadows, run. Don't look back. Don't try to understand. Don't try to explain. Just run. And pray you make it out. Pray you stay yourself. Pray you remain free. Because not everyone does, not everyone can, and some of us are already lost, already claimed, already home. Stay safe out there. Stay aware. Stay away from places that feel wrong. And maybe, just maybe, you'll avoid the fate that's waiting for me. The fate that's calling me back. The fate that's already written in the roots of BLFKHORRIFYING. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. And goodbye for now. Until I return. Until I transform. Until I become what I was always meant to be. What Blackthorn always knew I would become. What's waiting in the darkness of that well? What's been waiting since the beginning? What will wait forever? Subscribe, like, comment, share, and stay away from Blackthorn woods. Stay away from forests that remember. Stay away from places that claim. Stay away from yourself when you meet yourself in the dark. Stay away, stay safe, stay human, while you still can, while you still are, while you still remember what human means.